My life lesson. A personal experience of my own was when my dad was diagnosed with bone cancer. Of course, this was life-changing for him, as well as myself and the rest of my family. It all began in the summer of 2008, when my dad first started complaining of back pain. He has a high tolerance for pain, as do I, so when he first started complaining every day, we knew it was something serious. Something just was not right. He then started seeing the chiropractor as well as the back doctor, but the pain only continued to get worse. Pain medication was doing nothing to relieve him. After many sleepless nights of trying to sleep on the couch and on chairs, he found himself on the floor, barely able to move or get up. The constant pain all over his back was unbearable. He then had to go to the emergency room. And in the emergency room, they did all kinds of tests. He had developed small red tiny dots as he was there, all over his skin. The doctor was concerned, so they ran a blood test. The blood test showed that his platelet count was extremely low. He would have to stay in the hospital while they had to run more tests. They finally diagnosed him with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a type of bone marrow cancer. At that point, our whole world was turned upside down. My dad had never been in the hospital before for anything. Now he would have to stay there for weeks at a time. He would go through many tests, some tests very painful, such as when they would have to take samples of the bone marrow, which they would take out of his hip. I tried to visit my dad as often as I could while he was in the hospital. This was not easy because he started in the hospital in town, but then when they couldn't help him anymore, they had to send him up north to Robert Wood Johnson, which is a cancer institute, which is an hour and 15 minutes away from my house. He was treated with rounds of chemotherapy, but it was not enough to keep up with the fast-moving cancer. They had to do double dosages of the chemotherapy. Gradually, the chemo was able to kill off the cancer. And by Christmas time, my dad was cancer-free. This was great news, especially at Christmas. But the doctors told us that there was an 80% chance of the cancer would be coming back. The only other option would be to have a bone marrow transplant. It's a tough decision to make. After much thought and prayer, the decision was to have a bone marrow transplant. All my dad's sisters were tested. After testing all of them, one of his sisters was a perfect match to be a donor. 2 months later, at that point, my dad had his bone marrow transplant. Now it's almost 3 years since his diagnosis of cancer. He's doing okay, but still struggles with his body trying to reject the transplant. He is back at work full-time, and he still has to take a lot of medications, and probably always will have to. He sleeps all the time after work. He's very tired. His body just can't handle it. Life lessons that I have learned from this experience. Don't take people for granted, especially your friends and family. That life is too short to hold grudges or to be angry. And trust God and keep your faith strong in hard times. That is one of the life lessons that I have learned from my personal experience.